Alright, so since Starfire Protocol has been nerfed into the ground, at least for boss damage, a lot of people have been looking for a really high damaging build to juice out some pretty nice damage numbers. Especially my fellow Warlocks out there, I know you're looking for a high damaging boss build to replace your Starfire loadout. And that is what we look to do today, because we have a contender for an absolute juicing damaging setup. Now, there's a few things I want to let you know before we dive straight into the setup. First is that this build is on Strand, and it really does not require any specific exotic, meaning you have a lot of freedom here, at least exotic armor wise. And because it doesn't revolve around an exotic armor piece, that really does allow you to do this on other characters. In this video, we're going over the Warlock version of it, but I know for a fact that it can really cook as well on the Strand Hunter if you would like to try it out on that character. Finalmente, we have a sponsor for today's video, the good people over at Babbel. Babbel is a language learning app that teaches you how to speak, read, and listen in new languages. It gives you all types of tools and accessories to help you have conversations in actual practicality. On top of traditional app-based lessons, you can also learn through games, podcasts, videos, and even a few classes online with some top teachers via Babbel Live. Babbel's entirety is designed to help learners of all levels and attention spans, as lessons are built by a team of 100+ language experts and voiced by native speakers. The lessons give you a cultural context for the language, so you'll do more than just memorize vocab words, in addition to learning a bit more behind the culture of the language you're learning to speak. Babbel makes the process so easy you can get started with as little as 10 minutes a day to complete a lesson, so you can have conversations in a new language in as little as 3 weeks. So no matter what your goals or motivations may be, Babbel has you covered. I'm trying to learn Spanish at the moment. Buenos tardes. To get Babbel, just click the link below, and when you do so and use my link, you'll get 60% off. So go ahead and click the link below, start learning a new language today, and shout outs to Babbel for sponsoring today's video. Gracias. So since our subclass is doing a lot of the heavy lifting in terms of our actual swapping, let's go ahead and go over that first. If you're a Warlock, the aspects that you're going to want to use are Mind Spun Invocation for improved threadling grenades, and then I'm using Weaver's Call for some extra threadlings whenever I deploy my Rift, but it really doesn't matter too much what your second one is as long as you at least have Mind Spun. Obviously run your threadling grenade, and the fragments are very important. We have Thread of Generation, probably the best fragment for the entire Strand subclass in my opinion. Dealing damage generates grenade energy. This counts for threadling grenades. It's just dealing damage, not weapon damage, so any damage you do feeds back into your grenade, which is very important because we have Thread of Ascent. Whenever you activate your grenade ability, you're going to automatically reload your equipped weapon and gain a bonus to handling for a short time as well, essentially giving you demo for whatever weapon you have equipped for free. We're then running Thread of Evolution so that our threadlings deal even more damage, as well as traveling a little bit further. And then we have Thread of Continuity so that our unravel has a longer duration, and we can unravel the enemy with our melee, or our threadlings can unravel the enemies via the Swarmer exotic boots, which is the exotic that I decided to go ahead and use for this setup. But like I said earlier, there is no exotic armor piece needed to do this. So the whole point of the subclass is built in a manner to give you some increased handling to help with your triple swapping and have your threadling grenades do a lot of work, as well as getting your threadlings back as quick as possible. Now, since this is a triple swapping loadout, let's go ahead and talk about the ideal weapons for this setup that you are going to want to use. Now, ideally, you are going to want to have a bait and switch rocket launcher. There are two in the game at the moment that can roll that perk. Obviously, the main one is the Apex Predator from Last Wish. You can get the pattern for it and craft your 5 out of 5 God roll, as well as the new dungeon rocket launcher, the Cold Comfort. Of course, pair your rocket launcher with someone running a Gallahorn for maximum output, as well as your Wolfpack rounds will help get your threadling grenade back that much quicker. Now, since we're using the Apex Predator, we're going to be stacking 3 Solar Surges and pairing it with a Solar Special. The perfect weapon to fill this niche is going to be a Cartesian Coordinate, a rapid fire frame Solar Fusion Rifle that has been in the game for about 2 years now. If you don't have this Fusion Rifle and you still want to get the most out of your Solar Surges, I recommend the Season 20 Fusion Rifle. And then the exotic we want, something to apply a dot damage to help get our threadling grenades back quicker, and for proccing bait and switch. So what weapon would that be? Of course, the Wither Horde. So ideally what you would want to do is start off the damage phase and shoot your boss with the Wither Horde, switch to your rocket, shoot a rocket, and then shoot the boss with your special weapon, and then go back to your rocket. You can then go ahead and throw a grenade to reload your rocket. Try and throw a melee somewhere in there. I know it can be difficult dealing with all the swaps to throw in a melee. I struggle with it as well. And then back to your Wither Horde, and then your reconstruction should be able to proc again, so you can shoot your rocket and then use your super whenever you don't have a grenade grenade up, or your rocket is not reloaded. Since your super spawns threadlings, all of the damage your super does is going to feed thread of generation right into your threadling grenade. And once again, with thread of ascent, every time you throw a grenade with your rocket, it's free demo, so you can shoot another rocket immediately after you throw a grenade. Not to mention, you always have reconstruction working in the background, reloading your rocket no matter if it's stowed or in your hand. The one thing you never want to do with this setup is manually reload the rocket. You have so many ways to avoid that, so don't do it. This build does do an insane amount of damage, but it is a lot of swapping needed to do so, and there is an ideal rotation that you want to do, but sometimes in the heat of the damage phase, you're not gonna have the perfect ideal swap rotation, but you can still get away with doing good damage as long as you are not manually reloading your rocket launcher. Actually, you can do absurd damage as long as you're not manually reloading your rocket launcher. Not just good. And I know some people are going to be asking about what are we using for mods. Guys, the only important mods that you need to know that we're running are the triple solar surges. I'll put the mods up on screen just so you know what I'm using, but the most important by far is the triple solar surges. Maybe have some sort of siphon mods to help get yourself some armor charge, and or a solar dexterity mod. Now, since this is a boss damaging setup, it is for the most part relatively glass cannon. It's definitely not a solo style build. It is designed to bake bosses. And since this is a double special loadout, you'll have a lot more heavy drops. And because it's a double special loadout, I do recommend having a good legendary energy trace rifle for any instances where you're not in a damage phase. And then just make sure you swap to your fusion rifle a few seconds before damage actually starts, because, you know, the hot swap nerf, you gotta wait a couple seconds before you can shoot your gun again. But regardless, a good legendary trace rifle is always amazing for a double special loadout. And if you're wondering, could you do this with a hothead? Of course you can, man. Just make sure you have on an auto loading roll, and probably pair your auto loading holster with explosive light. Just note that explosive light is a 25% buff, whereas bait and switch is a 35% buff, and the Wolfpack rounds get buffed by that bait and switch as well. But if you haven't done any last switch since they reprised the weapons, then by all means go ahead and use a hothead with an iterative loop. Also maybe the Techie Force, but that is also from last switch. It's an arc fusion, control burst, rewind rounds, really good. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is going to wrap up the build. If you do want to give this build a shot, I will be leaving a dim link in the description as well, so you can do the good old copy paste and try it out for yourself if you have everything for it. If you don't have any of the solar weapons, I would highly recommend the arc weapons that we just talked about, because this setup is very fun. Just know your survivability is a bit on the low side. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching today's video. Remember, if you want to learn a new language, 60% off Babbel, top link in the description. But you guys have a great day. Consider subscribing. Y'all be safe, and we'll see you all in the next one.